So, fuck yes, welcome to the Hype. I'm your host, always Bryan Dressel. With me, as always, is Chewie Darsow.
Hi.
Emily Blake.
Yeah.
And now, until John comes back, we have Sam Garrison.
Woo! I thought John was dead.
Well, yeah, until he comes back to life, I guess.
Well,
John is Jesus.
Hollywood. And you know, in Hollywood, they like to say when you have kids, you're dead.
It's true. Now he has 2.
Yeah.
What
it's
a
the
fool.
worst.
Who would have
And he
kids
lives in
these
like
days of age?
Simi.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Sometimes kids just happen, you know.
What do you mean?
We might have a surprise at the end of May.
Cool. I can't wait to see what happens. By the way, you've been putting on a lot of weight. I'll just bring that up now.
Fuck you.
Okay, special guest this week. We have Paul Kruger back.
Hail and well met.
You were on Swiss Army Man, right?
Yes, that was me.
Okay, yeah. I have trouble remembering what episodes I have people on. I just remember they've been on, and then I was like, I talked to them about a movie. I don't remember which one.
Yeah, and I remember because last time I said you should bring me back to talk about Jupiter Ascending, and instead you brought me back to talk about the second best space movie ever made.
Oh, boy.
Have we ever done an episode on Jupiter Ascending?
No, because I don't like it.
Oh.
I like dogs.
Yeah,
I love dogs. I've always loved dogs.
An interesting episode now since it's been such a long time and we've gotten such a mixed bag of sci-fi since then.
It's really after the hype.
Yeah, that one couldn't be more. But we'll do a quick round of pre-plugs, if you will. Paul, you have a book out. Do you have another one coming that you're allowed to talk about, or no? Or
I have a lot of things going on right now, and I unfortunately cannot talk about any of them.
Okay.
It's like you're important or something.
Yeah. No, listen, here's the thing. Being an author is like being a farmer. You know, you show up at the state fair with your big old pumpkin, but when you're not at the state fair, you're just kind of tilling the fields and putting fertilizer in the soil and stuff, and them gourds is growing. And right now, my gourds is growing.
Okay.
Somehow that just sounds so dirty.
If people want to read your old work,
it's soil.
Is that what you put on your Tinder profile?
My
Oh,
gourd
man.
is
My
growing.
Man, I should reactivate Tinder just for that.
yeah.
I've alienated every other eligible bachelorette in LA.
Dude, no, don't go on Tinder. Go on Farmers Only.
I'm a word farmer.
But yes, the book you alluded to is called Last Call at the Nightshade Lounge. It is a fantasy novel about a secret society of bartenders who fight demons with alcohol magic.
I read it. It's good, and it has drink recipes.
It's true. It does.
I own it. I bought it, but then I'm still reading it because I've been reading
son of
it
a
for like
bitch.
9 months. But when I get done with that, it's the next one on my list.
No, it's okay. This is LA. Nobody
You guys
reads.
are just reminding me how much I
That's
miss
true.
alcohol right now.
Alcohol and reading.
Yeah.
Being
Okay,
able to lay down in a comfortable position.
Do you like alcohol? Do you like reading? Get Last Call at the Nightshade Lounge. It
there you
has
go.
both.
It's
perfect.
true.
Anybody else have anything to plug early before we move into where have you been doing? No, great. Okay, so where have you been doing? I will go first. I have been playing a game called Trackmania Turbo. It is free this month on PlayStation 4 Plus. It is basically like, if you're not familiar with the Trackmania series, which I did not know was a series, it's basically kind of a mix of Mario Kart and F-Zero, but on very, very short tracks. Like, the tracks are anywhere from like 20 to 30 seconds, and you just fly.
Would you say
fast as
it's
possible.
like you're living your online life a quarter mile at a time?
Sure, yeah, that'd be a great way to look at it.
Goodness.
It
Those
is
are both games where I just constantly crash or spin my way off of the ramp all the time. So
you
I
would
can
do that
imagine.
a lot in this game.
Okay, cool.
And the
cool.
problem is
I
the
can
game.
see frustration being high.
Oh yeah, but it's such a well-made game where it's a one-button restart. So like if you are flying off the course, you hit one button and the entire thing is started over instantaneous. So it's not like, oh, it's a reload the whole thing. It's just super fast and keeps you playing. And it's just gorgeous and fun and stupid, and I could not recommend it to anybody highly enough, even at the $40 price tag, which is where it usually sits. But if you own a PS4 and this episode still comes out in April, which I think it will, you should definitely pick it up because it is awesome. And if you have VR, there's a VR aspect to it as well, which almost made me throw up everywhere, which means it's good, so you should play it. But it's a little insane. But that's it for me.
For me, I'm not going to talk about Grimm or Law and Order.
Good for you.
Okay. Emily's very sick of hearing me talk about those two things.
I don't think it's just me.
It's not.
Yes,
Fine,
it is.
whatever, guys. I will
wife,
talk about
happy
Brooklyn
life.
Nine-Nine instead.
I love that
it's a good show.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine is on my list of shows that are underappreciated and wonderful. Actually, Brian keeps mentioning to me that I need to, at some point, actually write a article that's been swirling around in my head that pretty much if you have a show where that has a truly diverse cast in every way, it will do poorly in the ratings.
Not The Good Place.
Good Place is actually doing pretty well.
It's getting a lot better.
Good Place is a bona fide phenomenon.
Yeah.
And it's the same dude. Also, wonder-appreciated. There's the word you're looking for.
Oh, I like that.
Wonderful and underappreciated.
Wonderful,
Wonder-appreciated.
Yeah, wonder-appreciated.
Yeah, I like that. That's good.
It's like you do word stuff.
It's just because pretty much
chords are
every
growing.
show that I've enjoyed that had very diverse casts will stick around for a long time, but just never get the attention or rewards or anything that they ever deserve. I felt that towards Sleepy Hollow. I feel that towards Brooklyn Nine-Nine, because they're still in the bubble. They haven't gotten confirmed for their next season yet, and honestly,
They're not even on the bubble anymore. They're all considered likely to not renew.
that's really
this show's
disappointing.
So good.
Yep.
I know, and it's got such an amazing cast between every spectrum, where you got your Italian, you got your Jew, you got your Hispanic, you got your
Jew.
black, you got everything.
It sounds like you're grocery shopping for races.
I think maybe one of the reasons is like I love that show. I never know when it's on. It comes on, there'll be a few episodes, and then all of a sudden it'll disappear for a while.
It's true.
And then it
They've
just comes
had
back
long.
on.
Their mid-season break
Yeah.
was way too long,
And they don't advertise, and also their Twitter account, which I follow, will regularly live tweet old episodes. So when new episodes come on, I'm like, I assume it's an old episode they're talking about, but it's a new episode. So it's a thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, everyone's blasting in my head. I can't do this the whole episode. But yeah, it's frustrating because it just seems like with those type of shows, though, they just start. The moment they start to lose a little bit of faith in their product, they just start burying it. And then, of course, it's not going to do better because you're not believing in your product.
Well, and it's Fox, and Fox
yeah.
is known to swing that axe real fast. But this one, it's Fox, and it's finishing its 5th season, which means it has syndication. So, like, the chances of it coming back are slim.
It was just frustrating because the last episode I watched was a bottle episode, which, normally in a show, bottle episodes are just budgetary things they got to do every now and then, so they don't have to spend much for that one. And it was just, let me remember all their names.
Community had a good one.
Jake with Captain Holt interrogating one guy in an interrogation room. That was the whole episode. It was just those 3 characters. And for a bottle episode, it was fantastic because it was all examining Jake's ego and how he's way too confident all the time and whether or not Holt believes in him. And it's a classic trope they keep doing around the whole show constantly. But they did it great. For a bottle episode, I was just like, I didn't even realize that was a bottle episode until the very end when one other character showed up. And I was just like, oh, wait, I didn't see anybody else in this episode except for them. And just, that makes me sad that, yes, so it's 5th season and it's going to get canceled. It's really sad.
At least it got 5 years. I mean,
Yeah,
a bit of a
but-
positive side to it, but it
we
does suck.
And it's just, because Rosa just came out as bi earlier this season. And it would be great for them to explore that with her, but they're not going to now.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of good bi representation on TV.
There isn't.
No.
Because there's still so many people that don't even understand how bi works.
Yep.
And her dad's played by Danny Trejo, and who doesn't always love that?
The man makes a fine taco.
I also
And
love that
donut.
he's basically playing the same character on The Flash, and he is the same character
Protective
when
father,
he was on
yeah.
Rick and Morty.
He was really good on The Flash.
He's
like,
very
better
good
than I
at playing
expected
a
him to be on
scary
The Flash.
dad.
Yeah.
Emily, what about you? Where have you been doing?
I watched Jessica Jones season 2.
Ooh.
It was still Jessica Jones. There was still some cool stuff. I like. There's one scene where the guy goes, putting your fist to his face won't change his mind, and she goes, "That has not been my experience." So I love that still, but I feel like this. I think the common consensus, and I agree with it, is that season 2 is just not as good as season 1, and I feel like this season was wrapped up in a more specific, it was a less universal issue, and there was a lot about mommy issues, and I'm even someone with major mommy issues, and I still had trouble because it just, I don't know, it also didn't seem to give her much agency at the end of the season. I'm not going to spoil anything specific, but like at the end of the season, it didn't feel like last season where she was just like, no, I have the power, fuck you, and then you're like, yes. It felt like all of us, being like, fuck you, asshole dudes. This season was more like, oh, these things happen to me, and I'm Jessica Jones of all people, who's like sick of bullshit and doesn't tolerate it and does her own thing, seemed like a weak character at the end because all these things just sort of happen to her instead of her having the agency. And I think
That's
that
what I was
the,
afraid
she
of.
wasn't-
the weakness. In
She was
the
more
season.
of reaction instead of like
Yeah,
proactive.
especially toward the end
Yeah.
of the season. I was
That's not
kind of
good at
disappointed
all.
in how it ended up.
It was
I-
like a backdoor origin story that ended with moms are bad, okay?
Yeah.
Like it was
And in the end, she didn't
Yeah.
even solve the problem. In the end,
Yeah.
it was solved for her, and I think that was kind of disappointing. I still enjoyed a lot of aspects of it. I liked her relationship with the new guy.
he can get it.
He can get it.
At some point here, I'll actually sit down and watch all the new shows that I've been meaning to watch,
Yeah.
and not just keep watching Grimm and Law and Order.
Well, there are a lot of episodes of those shows.
Yeah,
So.
I'm almost done with Grimm. Actually, I'm very sad about it.
I'm not.
I love Grimm.
I'm okay. I need to watch it myself.
You've never actually watched it. So.
I need to watch it myself because all I do is I walk in on the worst episodes going,
No.
this show looks terrible.
He never walks in the worst episode. He walks in when they're deep, like talking about voguing and all the different characters, and so he has no idea what's going on and what these words are.
Yeah, I know they sound dumb.
They're German.
I never said Germans weren't dumb. I'm from there. I can say it.
Yeah.
That's how that works, right?
A lot of,
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
speaking about how much people from other countries hate it when we say we're from there when we're not.
Oh, yeah, totally. I'm definitely not from there. But I'm kind of from there. Good way.
3 generations ago.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Sam, what about you? What have you been doing?
I have just finished watching Santa Clarita Diet, which was
I've heard it's
Another,
delightful.
I've heard a lot of good things.
I might go out. I'm going to go out on a limb. I've been thinking about this because I knew I was going to be on the episode this week.
Mm-hmm.
It might be the best show I've seen on Netflix.
Whoa.
It's
Strong endorsement.
Better
I'm-
than Stranger Things? 'Cause
yeah,
that's
oh
what
for
everyone
sure.
says is the
No,
best.
no.
No, it's not.
Because it's like this is actually all the jokes are so well structured. The setups and payoffs. I love the characters. They behave consistently. It's just so well written, but it's so campy and so dumb. But it knows it's like everything is done with a purpose, and I love it. And I love Drew Barrymore and Timothy Olyphant have the best chemistry. I think it's like this really positive marital relationship in the middle of this chaotic, fucked up, gory show. Like at the end of season 1, I was watching it with my fiance, and we were both like tearing up in the middle of like what might be the stupidest thing I've ever seen. But we were also both like crying because there was this beautiful, heartfelt, and it wasn't purposely tugging at your heartstrings. It's just we had grown to love these characters so much, and
Yeah.
it felt so good. I was not expecting to enjoy it. I started watching it because Timothy Olyphant and Drew Barrymore were on the Joel McHale show.
I was just thinking about
Yeah,
that.
and it was so freaking funny.
Justified.
Yeah, it was so funny, and they were so funny together. We were like, well, we're watching this episode now, and we got through the whole series in about a week. Wow. And it's so good.
I feel like it's not fair because now Timothy Olyphant is also funny. Like he needed to be more perfect.
I
and
know!
he needed
How
to-
dare you be so attractive
He started in
and
comedy.
funny?
He started
Did he
in
really?
yeah.
Did he?
Timothy Olyphant started in comedy. Like, him getting cast as like a hard ass in Deadwood and getting cast as a killer in
Scream 2.
In Scream 2.
In
Like,
Justice? What was that?
Justified,
Justified.
He
which
was
I
also,
love Justified. Could talk
you
about
know,
that
he
one
was
forever.
a drug dealer in Go, but he was kind of a funny drug dealer. So.
Yeah, and he was really funny as a pornographer in The Girl Next Door.
Yeah.
But yeah, him getting cast as like a killer and a lawman were actually him playing against type that became his new type because he was
Interesting.
so good at it. Because I'm with you. I love Timothy Olyphant in that show. I mean, Drew Barrymore obviously is the anchor of it, but Timothy Olyphant's reaction shots are, I think, the secret in the sauce.
Yeah.
Really.
100%. Oh, it's so good though. Like I can't. Everybody should be watching this show. It's so good.
I like seeing their new advertisements where at first I thought it was a real realty company advertising on park benches, and I'm like, oh no, wait, that's for that Netflix show.
That realtor looks an awful lot like Timothy Olyphant.
I would definitely buy a condo from him.
Yeah. And then we
But
would
then his
bang
wife
in
might
it.
eat me.
It's always a possibility, I suppose. Paul, what about you?
Okay, so I started watching an older show called Steins Gate this week. Now, I love shows that have a puzzle box structure, and I have the patience to see one of those shows through to the end. But the problem is that I'm only 2 episodes in, and I have no idea what's going on, but I am enraptured by it. As far as I can tell, Steins Gate is about this low-rent, mad scientist type college student and his friends who live in a slum in the Akihabara district of Tokyo. Oh, this is an anime, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Yeah, it's an anime. And I think there's time travel involved because I'm trying to think of what to say without spoiling it, but just first off, there is a falling satellite that crushes a building, but when he tries to warn someone about it, apparently his text came 3 days ago, and I think where they're building towards is that the main character has time traveled and hasn't gotten to the point where he's time traveled yet, and then it's going to get crazy and trippy and puzzle boxy. And I've been told that if you give it like 6 episodes, things start to make sense. So I'm really early in that right now, and I don't know what's going on, but I do love it, and the animation is gorgeous, the music is really good, and yeah, yay anime.
I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah.
I haven't watched a good anime in a long time.
What was the last good one you watched?
The first half of Death Note.
Yeah, the first half of Death Note is a good anime.
Yeah, it is. And then it falls apart.
I recommend Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
I've watched half of the first run of Full Metal Alchemist, and I really enjoyed it. And then I lost my internet connection at that time. And I never got back into it when I got internet back. And
I've just
Brotherhood is
completely
better.
fallen out of anime in general.
No,
I know.
anime is life.
I know it does.
I still need to see what is it? Your Name. I heard that was phenomenal.
Your Name was my favorite movie of last year.
Yeah.
It's one of my top 5 favorite movies of all time. It's incredible.
I've heard it's really good, and then I've heard what is it? Abrams is making the live action version, and it's like
It is my hope that Abrams bought the rights to sit on them so nobody else could make it, because that movie is perfect. And it's so rooted in Shinto culture. I can't imagine them transplanting it and localizing it to America. We don't have the analogous concepts in our culture to make the premise of the story work.
that's interesting.
You just told me something that I'm like, oh, I've seen them do that many times, and those are always bad movies.
Yeah, those never work out well.
No, I was just thinking about it the other day. I have yet to see a good live action adaptation of an anime.
Nope.
Never.
There's
do
always
you mean?
hope for Cowboy Bebop. We're not.
I mean, there'd be
We
hope.
shouldn't
but
do that.
Didn't that just celebrate its 20th anniversary? I
It
think
did, like
yeah.
on Tuesday.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, I thought it was very recent.
The
Yeah.
only movie that I consider a live action anime, even though it's not related to an anime franchise, was Scott Pilgrim.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was styled very manga-esque in
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
original
definitely.
comic. Actually, no. I just thought of a really good anime adaptation, Speed Racer. Speed Racer is an
Yes.
incredible
I actually
movie.
really enjoy that movie.
Yeah, it captures the manic energy of the original run of Speed Racer perfectly.
I wish they had trimmed like a half hour out of it.
Legit.
I would love it if it wasn't.
I
over
was
2
happy
hours.
to spend all the time in that.
I get it,
feel like
but-
you're due for like a Wachowski battle.
Yeah, we really
Soon.
should do one.
Can I be the
Does-
judge?
We'll
I
discuss
don't
later.
know what I would choose.
It comes back to
'Cause
Jupiter
otherwise I'll
ascending.
win.
Whenever I'm on, it always comes back to
I think
Jupiter
Maybe
Cloud,
just
I
steer
think
it there.
Cloud
Like,
Atlas is
subconsciously you're just
incredibly
doing it.
Good, then
underappreciated.
dibs on the Matrix. 'Cause
Yeah.
That's like one of my favorite movies. So
a great movie.
if anybody else takes it, I'll beat them.
Cloud Atlas was beautiful. Yeah, they
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 have
make
some-
so many good movies.
They do.
Talk about underappreciated.
Wonder appreciated. He already dropped the word. I liked it.
Yeah,
Underappreciated.
Wonder Appreciated.
It's
Wonder
official-
Appreciated is its
official
own
word.
podcast, I think.
But we should move into today's.
What are we talking about?
A little film did okay. Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
Definitely didn't do as well as they wanted it
It
to.
did not do as well as they wanted because there was no way for it to. Because Disney was out of their mind thinking this one would clear $2 billion as well. Like,
I mean,
Calm
honestly,
the
I
fuck
don't
down.
think any more of the Star Wars movies are going to.
nope, no way,
Yeah.
no chance.
Yeah,
The
I would agree.
haterade that I was thinking was going to happen in a couple years has already started.
Yeah,
It's also we hadn't had a new Star Wars movie in like a zillion years, so it was a big deal. Now
Yeah.
it's like, oh, we're getting one every year, so it's less necessary. It's like
They shouldn't be doing
it's like
that.
superhero movies. You don't have to wait so long to see one, so naturally, not as many people are going to rush out to watch it.
Well, okay, so hang on. Because this movie has been so uniquely divisive among all Star Wars movies, I want to just go around the table and everybody, without articulating your position, just whether you liked it or not. Like, did you like it or did you not like it?
oh, I
Brian?
liked it. Yeah,
Okay,
I
Chewie?
definitely liked it.
I like it.
Sam?
I liked it.
Okay, so we all liked it at least. And
Yeah.
now we can articulate.
I've heard a lot of.
Yeah.
I'm prepared to discuss a lot of arguments I've heard from dudes I've dated about why this movie's not good.
Before
Yeah.
we do any of that, though, we need to do a 30-second breakdown. I apologize again this week. It is not on camera because we do not have the right cameras here.
'Cause
Fuck
John
you,
died.
John, for dying. I really hope he listens to these episodes. Ever since he's been on the show, he kind of stopped listening to the show, so I'm not sure if he's going to hear us just keep talking about how he's dead.
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah.
What a dick.
Yeah, I know, right?
Do you guys listen? I mean, we were already here.
I listen. Well, I have to listen when I cut it, and then I listen
Oh,
to my
yeah.
car to make sure that the levels still
I
work
don't
out.
listen.
I started listening to a couple episodes I wasn't here for, and then I was just like, I don't know. I'm not
It's
on
my-
it. Do
Ringing
I really
endorsement of the
care?
show.
I
Emily.
listened
Thanks a lot.
I listened to the podcast when I wasn't on it.
Yeah.
Now it's like I don't
I
need to
listen to
listen to
some of it.
myself.
I listen every Friday morning with Lottie on the way into work.
Oh.
Aw.
Well, at least
She
we got
looks
one.
like a.
Yeah, I think I started to listen to it, and I was like, because I was like gonna try, and then
Yeah.
I was like, but I just started thinking about clowns,
Yeah,
and then I was like scared.
they just got in your head.
Yeah.
The image of a clown is a clown.
As I'm drunk.
Emily,
like-
you. One thing is, you gotta be thankful to the amount of restraint Brian and I, as trolls, have
Yeah, I appreciate
have
it.
held towards you.
I
Because
can still
every
just-
time I see something online about or in life about clowns, I think of you and Brian's sister.
Yeah.
And I text Brian's sister. I
I guess
you.
thanks for not being horrible.
Okay, Paul, are you ready to do a 30-second breakdown for The Last Jedi?
Yeah.
Can you describe this whole movie in 30 seconds?
I think so.
Okay, cool. All right, so here it is. Star Wars The Last Jedi in 30 seconds. Here we go, 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 go.
Okay, Ryan Johnson watched the second episode of Battlestar Galactica and then decided to turn that into a whole movie. And then he incorporated a lot of toxic relationship tropes that he ultimately subverted, which I really appreciated. Meanwhile, Oscar Isaac is incredibly handsome, but not a good planner. And he spends his whole life sassing back to women. And then at the end of it, all the women follow him, which I don't think was necessarily the message Ryan Johnson intended, but that is the message that came across, which is a whole other thing we can talk about. And Rose is cool. Asians in space.
I'm so happy I didn't cut off the end there. I was just about to.
Oh,
Yeah,
by the way,
Okay.
I'm Asian,
All
just so
right.
you know.
I'm
When I-
just going to Google that because I want to see how many porn hits I get.
Asians
I'm
in space.
sure you get quite a lot.
Oh man, send me those links because that sounds good.
just to be clear to the audience, I am Asian. I can invoke Asians in space.
Can if you're not Asian, can you not invoke Asians in space?
You can, but we'll know.
All right.
We'll talk about it at the meeting.
So the internet is better
I like
than I
Asians
thought it
in
was going to
space.
be, guys.
Yeah.
It doesn't just have porn come up right away. It actually comes up with a list of Asian astronauts and then comparison of Asian national space programs. Diversity
It's always kind of
in
nice when the internet
space.
doesn't let you down.
You just assume porn will come up.
I have it on good authority that porn is what the internet is for.
Yeah. I've heard it in a musical once. Okay, so starting with this movie, we've already kind of done the round table of whether or not we liked it. The one thing I want to try to avoid doing is just comparing this to the rest of the franchise, which I think is very tough to do with a movie that's this many deep. But as much as we can try to stay focused on just The Last Jedi, I'd like to. Like, as great as you might think Force Awakens is or isn't, or Rogue One is or isn't, like, we're here to talk about.
That's actually what I liked about this movie is
Yeah.
how unlike it was its own movie.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that's so special and so unique, especially in where films have basically turned into yearly television releases. Everything is so
Yeah.
serialized, and this truly seems to stand on its own.
I like that they even sort of made you think it wasn't going to. It opens with basically the evacuation of Hoth, and then it
Yeah.
takes a complete left turn, and it becomes a totally different movie.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it really makes me, to go exactly against what I just said I was going to do, it really makes me wish that Ryan Johnson had been charged more from the beginning. And whether or not you liked him or not, it's more that Abrams went and made a very good remake of A New Hope by using the structure of A New Hope to tell a new story, but it stayed too close to the source material. Whereas this one, you can look at it, and if you go beat to beat, you can see the framework of Empire Strikes Back. Like, it's in there. It's not blatant, but it's in there, and he used that to make his own very different standalone film, which I think is very impressive.
I just think that they're two different type of Star Wars fans because honestly, when you look at all of the things out there and all the people out there, there's a big divide between what people love about Star Wars and how they interpret it. Like a lot of times I just don't talk to people about Star Wars because to me it's very different fandom than a lot of other people. Like Sam and I have even gotten into fights about it because I know Sam loves the marketing about Star Wars the most, and I care about the deep-rooted.
Not the most,
You're
but
so corporate, Sam.
But we've talked about how you think the toys were the big reason that Star Wars became Star Wars.
No, I think it's because it is the boilerplate for franchise filmmaking. It's important. Yeah, like it's an important piece of cinema. It's as important, I think, as like the first movies that were made because it has given us modern cinema.
Oh, absolutely.
And modern cinema isn't just the movie. It is the marketing and the merchandising and the fandom and the response to that fandom. And that's why I think Star Wars, it's so important in a way that I don't think people fully appreciate or grasp sometimes.
See,
I totally agree with that.
And
Yeah.
when I think about Star Wars, I like that aspect of it. But when I think about my personal fandom, that's not why I'm a Star Wars person. And it's like,
no, but even if that's not why you're a Star
I'm not
Wars...
articulating this well at all.
No, I
But the basics of what I'm trying to say is that there are different versions of a Star Wars fan. There's like how I saw Star Wars, and then I wanted to consume everything story driven that was Star Wars. Like I enjoyed buying the stuff, but I really read the books and I read the comics, and I really wanted to be involved in everything that was happening in the universe.
Knights of the Old Republic is still the greatest game ever written.
Yeah, and then you have other people who only
Carthusian.
watched the movies and say they're the biggest Star Wars fans ever. And a lot of times I get really mad about that, but then I have to hold myself back and be like, okay, that's just you. That's you think you're the biggest Star Wars fan ever. All right,
It doesn't have to be a competition.
I know, but
there's a lot
That's
of...
the thing.
co-
I
it's
think
the-
all of those things can be true.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I
Yeah.
have to step
Yeah.
back and be like, all right, everyone's fandom's different. And for me, the difference in whether or not you appreciate Last Jedi versus Force Awakens more is a big illustration of that.
See, for me, I found that the contrast is less with Force Awakens and more with Rogue One. Because
Yeah.
a thing I've noticed about both Rogue One and The Last Jedi is that both of them were movies that endeavored to take a franchise that was very staid and set in its ways and expand what it could be in very different directions. And I find, this isn't, of course, a universal rule, but I have found in my informal experience that people that really loved Rogue One did not care for The Last Jedi and vice versa.
I have the
Yeah,
opposite.
I love
I
them
feel like
both.
the
Yeah.
opening sequence with the bomber run was very Rogue One. It was all about sacrifice
Yeah.
and you know and heroes and all.
No,
of that.
I know. I'm saying again, it's not a universal rule. I'm saying that I found that people in my life tend to have liked one or the other
weird.
and not both, which I find really
So
interesting.
It is very interesting because I have the opposite in my
Yeah,
life.
same.
I have people that are die-hard Force Awakens people, think that's the greatest one that's come out so far. And I always say, no, I like Rogue One more.
And I like all three guys.
Yeah, I mean, but there's something to be said for all three of them. But there is some, like, it is. I think that Rogue One and Last Jedi complement each other more
They
than
do.
they do Force
They're
Awakens.
way more
And,
s-
yeah, I don't think that's a bad thing
Yeah.
either. It's just kind of how they're coming about. And I think
We're doing the exact opposite of what
yeah,
you
I know.
said.
So
I'm
I want to
sorry.
move more into just Last
Can
Jedi.
we-
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I do that?
Yeah.
So for me, what was so special about The Last Jedi, everybody, like, I think it's been pretty clear on all my episodes. I fucking love romance and film. And finally, Star Wars was sexy. Like, oh, I've been waiting for that for so long.
Can you put
And-
on a towel?
Sorry. Like, I have been waiting for that for so long, though, to
Yeah.
have like this big mythic world and then have it come down to just like two people like kind of getting under one another's skin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact that that was the central conflict in the movie, it finally felt like I've always loved Star Wars. I'm definitely a fan, but it's like, oh, you finally get me.
And I was like, because I was so hot for Kylo Ren in Force Awakens, and I was just, people were like, you shouldn't be hot for that guy. He's evil. And in this movie, I was like, yay, I'm justified. Okay, it's okay.
But he's still really evil.
still
but,
really
He's
like,
so
evil,
evil,
yeah.
but he's
Yeah.
really, it was obviously a sex symbol situation.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know about the evil. Actually, I don't know about the evil part. I mean, yeah, he's like a selfish child.
and a
Yeah,
mass
that's what I
murderer
never-
who
Yeah,
killed his
but
own dad
I
while
never
looking him in
found
the
him
eye.
attractive.
Forgiven a lot of
because
mass
of that.
murderers in a lot of movies, though.
I can't find a
but
child to be
the amount of-
attractive. so-
Yeah,
No,
but the
but-
amount of people who love Loki, you know.
Yeah, but there,
I don't get that either.
I get Loki more than I get Kylo. Like Kylo,
I would go to a Thor orgy. Let's
Yeah.
be real, people.
Authorgy.
Thor.
oh man, pun game is strong this week. But there's
I'm done the rest of the episode.
yeah.
She's in her happy place.
There's moving into just Kylo in general. Like I really love the character of Kylo more in this one than I did the first one, and I think that's very similar to Vader, where Vader was sort of just like a picturesque bad guy in the first one, and the second one became a full-fledged character. And I like that they kind of did the same thing in this one, where like Kylo went from basically just being a whiny bitch in the first movie, which again, not complaining about that, to like a fully like, I want to control my own destiny. God damn it! In this one, and
Yeah.
just like seeing that internal struggle throughout the whole movie was great.
And his real, like, he's so lonely, and that's why,
Yeah.
like, because there's no one for him to relate to. He killed everyone he could relate to,
Yeah.
and now here's Rey, and he's just sort of like, and I think that's actually this. It's weird because he is an asshole, but the sad moment when she rejects him, and he's just like, that was, but he won't come over to her side. So he could do that too. He could help her, and he makes that choice.
I'm actually
That please he has
Yeah.
is like one of the most like heart-wrenching like
Oh my god.
And
Yeah,
I've heard
Vader
some-
would never ask please for
No.
anything.
Yeah.
And like there's a lot of people who think that sequence is him lying to her to try to convince her to go over to his side. There's no fucking way.
I think
Like,
it's
super
the only
lonely.
time he's really sincere.
yeah, that is a sincere, desperate, begging moment of like, I don't want to be alone. Please come with me on
I mean, it
this.
starts all the way back from when he first took his mask off and like started
Yeah.
talking to her in that room. Realized when she pushed back against him, he was like, "Wait, whoa!" And immediately, oh, here's someone like me. Here's someone I can relate to. Holy shit! Maybe I don't have to be alone the rest of my life. And I feel like it was simmering in his head this entire time.
I think it's also that relatable tragedy of falling for someone when you see the potential of the relationship instead of seeing how fundamentally it wouldn't work. Like
Yeah.
he sees everything she could be in his mind without seeing the fact that she's a fundamentally better, more good person
Yeah.
than he is. And it's, I think we can all relate to that in that moment too. There's so much sympathy where I think we've probably all been there or
Yeah.
been on the receiving end of that. And that's where this relationship was so lived in and honest
Yeah.
and in the middle of an epic space battle. I love
Yeah.
it.
That's
Yeah.
one thing that I love about Rey. Not to turn it away from Kylo, but yeah, to turn away from Kylo.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Please.
One of the things I love about Rey as a character all the way through is that she does do that. She is a little bright spot. That everywhere she goes, my favorite moment of hers is from The Force Awakens when she just goes, "I bypassed the compressor," and she's so excited, and then he's not excited. She's like, "Oh," because I feel like she's so bright and shiny and believes and is just excited to be alive, and so everywhere she goes, look what she did for Luke. Like, she brought Luke back from depression. She gives everybody she meets hope, and I think there's a part of Kylo that thought she could do that for him too, and that's not her fucking job. But I feel like he thought maybe she could save him as a person, and she's just like, "Not my job. I'm walking away."
Yeah.
There are a lot of women
she-
who would have been like, "Okay, let me save you. I can
she-
make you a better
She
man."
gave it a shot. Like she
Yeah.
actually tried, and when she realized there's no saving him,
Yeah.
she walked away. It wasn't like she's just like, you know what? Fuck
No,
that.
no,
Yeah.
but she walked away when it was going to be unhealthy.
Yeah.
I think
exactly.
she was very. I agree with she's always like a bright spot where she's not quite as cynic, but I also think that she grew up a lot in this movie because especially I love the sequence when she hands Luke the lightsaber and he just throws it away because to me, once I watched this movie and I got to see everything through his lens, that lightsaber represents failure and loss and everything negative to him. She doesn't understand that because she's such a hero worshiper at the beginning of this movie, and then she learns how to be the hero at the end of this movie. So I love that transition from her.
Yeah, and I think that's to bring it back to The Force Awakens, like we wanted to. No, I have long held the opinion The Force Awakens is an examination of what it means to be a Star Wars fan because it's centered around a bunch of characters who grew up idolizing Star Wars and suddenly get to live the fantasy, and that Rey and Finn and Kylo are all different examinations of what it means to be a Star Wars fan. And I think that examination continues in The Last Jedi. I think this is where you see Rey grow up from being a fan to being a contributor to the canon, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Sure.
You know, it's and the same goes for Kylo. Kylo is a toxic gatekeeper who thinks that he can own what Star Wars is. And then he gets mad when everybody doesn't want to play things his way.
And
Yeah.
then he's still kind of the same at the end, but he becomes a full-blown Sith at the end. He fulfills the circle. He kills his master, and I'm very excited to see where he's going to go in the next movie.
Although
I wonder
do
if they'll
like
give
that
him an
choice.
apprentice.
They
Well, he
should.
wanted
Always
it to
two
be
there are.
Rey.
Yeah. Well, there's supposed to be two. Yeah.
But Kylo Ren has not identified as Sith. There's
he
a, there's
said,
a
"Let the
difference.
Sith die."
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a difference between being a dark side user and being a member of the Order of the Sith.
Same
And
for
Well, I know
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
but
yeah.
the whole even so he's saying he doesn't want to be a Sith, he still completed the task of a
Yeah, I
Sith.
did.
Yeah.
You know, he did, but he also did that in an act of burning down everything that came before because he didn't want to preserve the old order. This ended up actually being the fundamental conflict between them, is that Kylo wants to burn everything down. Rey wants to build things back up.
And when
But
you-
isn't there something about how much he wants to push back against the old order that he accidentally just falls into the old order of things?
Well, that's kind
Oh,
of the
yeah.
history
Yeah, the more
repeats
he-
itself.
Yeah, the more he tries to run from his destiny, the more he's just running straight at it.
And I think that's why he's so upset. Like, he is the child. When you think about it, he is the child of two of the most significant people in their universe.
Yeah.
Like, these two people created a rebellion and ended up saving everyone, and he's also a Force user, and he's also supposed to bring back the Jedi. That's a lot of fucking pressure.
Yeah.
And I can see why he's fragile and decides he can't handle it and pushes back. I mean, it doesn't make him not an asshole, but you can sort of see where that comes from and why he's like that. The same way, one of the complaints I've heard is that this isn't the Luke I grew up on. Well, of course not. He's like way older, and
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
also has a lot of pressure.
Got a lot of baggage.
Yeah, Luke was supposed to save everyone, and he didn't, and now he's like, well, fuck it. Why should I even try? I'm a failure. I mean, that would be such an epic failure. You would not recover from that.
Well, that's what Brian and I just discussed a lot yesterday about the reasons we love this movie and how the movie is about failure. The entire movie is about everyone failing and then trying to make the best of it.
Everyone
Yeah,
fails.
everyone
Really good
fails at
point.
some point in this
Yeah.
movie. And for me, it's also about destroying your heroes. Because Rey lets go of her hero worship. There's Rose, who we haven't brought it up yet. I love her moment of destroying her hero worship because she's...
That's like right out of the gate.
Yeah,
because
she
she's
doesn't get
just
to have a hero.
She's praising Finn the whole time, like, "Oh, I'd heard about you. You're so great. All this." I'm like, "What are you doing?"
So who does she fall in love with, though? Did she fall in love with Finn, or did she fall in love with the image of Finn that she had in her head?
You
I
know,
don't know.
This is one of my few critiques of the movie. I wish they had done just a little bit more to sell me on the Rose-Finn connection. Because right now, as I read it, Rose is super into Finn. Finn is not necessarily into Rose. I wish that relationship could have been a little more defined. You don't have to give me much. Give me like 2 longing glances of her looking at Finn at one point or another to show more of an arc. Because it did... Like, I kind of sensed that they were going there, but I didn't feel like they had quite earned that moment.
No,
it didn't feel like romance.
To me,
No.
it felt more like, "I think I'm dying. I'm just gonna kiss you now."
Which, I mean,
But-
if John Boyega's hovering in front of your face and you're dying, like...
Yeah,
go
why
for
not?
it.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Listen, you miss 100% of the proton torpedoes you don't launch.
I guess that's that. Like, I'm curious to see where their relationship goes because I don't even know if that kiss felt terribly romantic.
It
No, it
didn't feel
didn't.
romantic to me at all. It,
it
felt like a
felt like
goodbye.
Telling
Yeah.
you, love
Yeah.
triangle.
There can have a
Yeah.
non-romantic kiss.
It's
Yes.
going to be a love triangle.
That was by far
I
the...
think you're probably right. I don't want you to be right, but knowing
I
that
don't-
Abrams is taking over, you're probably
no.
right.
There are
With
certain
Poe?
well,
Finn and Poe?
there are certain
That'd be better.
inevitabilities with Star Wars you have to just learn to live with, like the fact that Solo is almost inevitably going to end with him making the Kessel Run.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Like
That doesn't look
somebody said that to me in passing, and the moment I heard it, I realized with mounting horror that there was almost no way that Solo could end any other way than him making the Kessel Run. Or no, the Falcon making the Kessel Run.
Yeah.
They always specify that it's the ship, not him.
The only thing that I'm nervous about with Solo, just to say it and move on,
Yes.
is
All of it.
whether or not it is a very unnerving movie because it's been such a roller coaster of a production. But if they end it tying it directly into A New Hope, I'm like, that chronology makes no sense. Don't do that.
I want a Lando movie. I just want to watch Donald Glover in that cape. Just
Oh
look cool.
my God.
Lando Unchained.
I'm convinced
Lando Unchained,
that movie's going to end
yes.
with him walking into the cantina, but
No,
that doesn't matter.
because it doesn't make sense.
Last
He's
Jedi,
too-
Last Jedi, Last Jedi.
Okay, but
We just love Star Wars so much.
I
Returning
know.
to Finn and Rose, I do think that was by far the weakest part of the story. The scene where they race through the casino planet on the backs of those animals went on for way too
Oh my-
long.
and
It was
they
really
cut it in
boring.
half, too.
Oh,
Yeah, we
God.
watched that extended cut. I started getting frustrated.
Yeah.
It felt like still happening.
It felt like being transported into a kids movie.
Yeah.
Like a legitimate. I mean, I know Star Wars
And
is
it
a
was
family film, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
But you went
Like-
back to
Transition.
episode 1, your pod racing.
It's,
again.
it's the
Yeah.
difference between Last Jedi and Phantom Menace. Which one's a kids movie?
Yeah. And it's just, it was so unfun, and I don't. My tolerance for Benicio del Toro is limited anyway.
Yeah.
So fuck
Shocking that
that
he turned on them, guys.
Oh yeah.
I
This
was
creepy
upset
man they
that
met in
there
a
were-
prison.
I like DJ. Am I in the?
I like DJ.
Yeah, I thought he was pretty cool. Like
I like Space Monte Carlo in general. I think it's the secret that makes the movie work.
I didn't
Yeah.
like it
Really?
because
Yes.
to me it just felt like a big sideline that was filler, and there's no Hutts or Twi'leks in there, which was just
Yeah.
weird.
I felt like they were just giving Finn something to do.
Yeah.
No, see, I think here's the thing. obviously, you guys are all storytellers. You all understand this. But for our listeners at home, a story is rooted in, if you use the hero's journey model that George Lucas used, you start with the ordinary world. That is how a story begins. That's how you provide context so the hero has something to fight for. This movie starts with everything already under fire and everybody moving. You don't have an ordinary world. You get through the first act largely on momentum, but eventually you need to zoom this movie out and ground it back in the larger galaxy, and that to me is what Space Monte Carlo does. That is showing you what the Resistance is fighting for, because otherwise
A bunch
it is
of
just
dicks gambling?
No, the kids in the kids
Okay,
in the
they're fighting
stable.
for the kids.
Which is like, there's a reason why
The
that's what the
downtrodden.
movie ends on. Which,
Yeah.
incidentally, the other reason why Space Monte Carlo works is because that last image is
Yes.
so powerful and so moving, and I tear up every single time it happens. But yeah, I think you need this movie you need Space Monte Carlo to provide scope.
I agree with that, but there's too much monologuing in it that actually just upset me. Because like when Rose does the whole look deeper thing to Finn, I'm just like, ugh, okay. Now we're
See, I come from anime; it's all monologues.
I had no problem with that, and I really enjoy the kind of like pulling the veil back just a little bit on this war isn't important to everyone. Like, because everything we've seen in Star Wars for so long has all been, it's the rebels versus the
And you're
First
on either
Order
side.
or the Empire or whatever, and you have to pick a side because this war is like universe engulfing horror show.
Or you can be rich.
Yeah, or you can be rich. And like this one did it, like I like the whole thing of like, yeah, you know, to most of us in the galaxy, maybe not most of us, but to a large chunk of us, you guys are just doing your own thing, and it's kind of annoying that you get in the way.
Yeah.
Like
And
I like that
and
DJ
blow
even
up whole planets.
yeah, like I like that DJ even has that one line of like, they're blowing you up today, you're gonna blow them up tomorrow. And in a way, he's right. We know what's gonna happen in the third movie. So like, as much as like his character might not be like the greatest character in the world, I liked him, but I can understand why people don't. I like that he brings in that point of view, which we've never gotten in a Star Wars film.
Yeah.
not
so
really,
far.
no.
Yeah, which goes back to, I think this is a movie that tried to expand what Star Wars could be. Star Wars traditionally has been very binary in its outlook on the galaxy and on morality, and this movie was all about finding those gray areas, and I think you need a character like DJ to do that. I think it's almost like you talk about how this is beat for beat Empire Strikes Back. I think
Not beat for beat, but the framework
yeah,
is there.
but I think he is the Boba Fett figure, but I think he is a much more interesting figure, both because he says things and because he actually stands for something.
Yeah, Boba Fett
Yeah.
is just doing it. I just never.
He just
understood
looks
why
real
everyone-
fucking
Alright.
cool.
No, because
Another thing
Boba
that
Fett is
was
a feat
more
of good
explored in
costume
the
design.
books that other people don't appreciate.
Sure.
In Legends.
Yeah. Oh God, she's
More
gonna
than-
throw a knife at you.
Don't do that. Don't
This
Disney it, you asshole.
That was something that I really appreciated about this movie, is how much it did try to turn the whole mythology of the Force on its head. Even it's so funny, as much as Rey was trying to build stuff up, she's expanding the powers of the Force in a way
Yeah.
that actually makes it feel magical and not just like an ancient religion with some mumbo jumbo. It actually feels this movie felt very like Taoist to me in a lot of ways. Like I do
which
Tai Chi.
appreciate a lot, because they borrowed so much from Asian cultures, and then they didn't employ any Asian people. Whatever, it's fine. I'm
Now
not
they
bitter
did.
about
Asians
it.
in
But-
space.
yeah, but
One Asian in space.
no,
It's
There's
something.
the
No.
pilot from Rogue
yeah,
One.
there's Jessica Pava, there's Baze and Malbus, and not that I've been keeping a list or anything.
There's a couple Asian extras in this movie.
Yeah, no, there are a few.
And Mabu Donnie
they're getting
Yen
better.
was in Rogue One.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Baze and Malbus.
Yeah.
No, Baze Malbus is one person. Baze and Chirrut, that's what it is.
Yeah.
But no, I agree with you. It's very Taoist. But I also like that it found a way to make midichlorians stay canon while adding Mystique back in, so the Force isn't just space leukemia.
Yeah.
Because they found a way to tie it into biology, but as you say, they managed to add mystery and wonder back in after those layers had been sanded off.
Yeah.
And their expanding of the the Force powers is actually one thing that, with me and people who say they don't like this movie, or I just want to punch them, because in the books, they had explored the effects of the Force on you physically multiple times. And they illustrated with other characters where if you exceeded your level of being able to control the Force, or just exhausted yourself, you will burn up from the inside and die. And they did that with Luke. They specifically did that with Luke. And they gave him a beautiful send-off that was completely of his hero journey coming to full circle of him dealing with all of his faults and still being able to save the day. And they gave him a wonderful send-off that other people were like, well, how did he just disappear? I'm like, okay, whether or not you read whether or not you read the
literally how they
books,
all do it.
Yeah, I'm like, you
Remember
at
that
least saw
time
the previous
Obi-Wan did the
movies.
same thing?
Yeah.
and
Or
Some
Yoda.
people said this
Yeah.
came out of left field. Of Obi-Wan did it in the first film, you idiots.
Oh, and by the way, these people complaining about these new force powers that are coming out of nowhere. Why were they not calling bullshit when Palpatine suddenly shot lightning? There was never any
Yeah,
indication you could
yeah.
shoot lightning.
That's the point of having a new movie, is to expand the possibilities of
Thank
what
you.
the Force is. And I love that we have two characters in Rey and Kylo who are genuinely interested in doing that. And I loved this movie so much, like philosophically what it stood for. I love that nonviolence was a genuine solution. I feel like we need so much more of that in the world right now, and to see Luke choose the nonviolent action and still be a hero and still save the day and get everyone out safely and do it as an act of love
And sacrifice.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't ask, like,
Because I'm sure he went into that knowing I've never
won't kill me.
projected my
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
projected myself like this before. I am going to die.
yeah, I just think it's so special because I feel like movies tend to fetishize violence in a way that's been making me more and more uncomfortable lately. And to see a big movie like this, a big event film, not blow up a whole city, to take place in kind of this very concentrated space and where the goal was not to kill people.
This is
It's
very
so
much
magical.
a story about us all, the potential in all of us, banding together, to escape the Empire. But also, one of my favorite things is that Rey is not special. She is special,
Yes.
but just because she's special, not
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
of who her
She's
parents
special
are.
because the Force chose her,
Yeah.
not because of any
Well,
weird lineage or
even-
anything.
yeah,
because
She's
she
special because
chooses
she's Rey.
to be good.
Yeah.
Well, even more than one of the things the Emperor says early on in the movie to Kylo is, "I chose you because of your parentage," and for the Emperor that was so important. But
Yeah.
like
Snoke.
the truth is, Snoke. Sorry,
I just assumed Snoke was a clone gone bad.
I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Parentage.
For Rey to not have special parents, but Rey was the right choice for the Force. But the fact that there's the kid at the end is so significant because there are always going to be Force sensitive children. The Empire or the First Order or whoever cannot stop that from happening. And so you can keep trying to kill Jedi, you can keep doing it, but we always know there can only be 2 Sith at any given time. So are you just going to keep killing them? They're going to keep rising up. And it could have been any one of those kids. They could have BB-8 could have landed on a planet with some other Force sensitive kid who would have followed that journey. It could have been anybody. It could be any one of us. And that's what's so cool about that kid with the broom at the end. It's like, first of all, this kid also could have the potential to be great. It doesn't matter who the hell your parents are. And also in that moment, I can't be the only one who was like, yeah, fuck Donald Trump, because that's exactly what that moment was about. It was like all of us being like, fight the power, fuck it, we're gonna do this together. And I felt like that made it also very timely for where we are right now.
Yeah, there is something that's really cool about the movie, because all the other Star Wars films and books, legends, whatever you want to call them, like they always deal with the Force, but they don't really, except for the crazy bullshit midichlorian, like way over explaining, they don't really ever try to explain fully how the Force works. And this one, they did it so smart between the scene between Luke and Rey, where he's like, all right, so what's the Force? Like, well, the Force are superpowers that Jedis have. And he's like, okay, let's bring this
Everything
back
you
to
said
what
is
it is.
wrong.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I love that. I love the whole thing of like, no, we need to go back to what, like, it's basically Ryan Johnson going, let's go back to where we started on a promise of all these great possibilities that we then got shoehorned into the family drama, which was great and some of the best movies ever made. But it's like Ryan Johnson taking a step back and going like, no, we need to like blow this world up and take a look at what we can do. And that whole thing of the storyline of however powerful Kylo Ren gets, and Snoke even says it, his opposite will rise because the Force will always balance itself. And I love that because that just plays like bigger in your head. So there's only 2 Sith. That means that the Sith are most likely way more powerful than any one of the Jedis, because if it's going to balance itself, those 2 will have more power than the hundreds of Jedis that we had before. And now that the Jedi are basically gone, and we only have 2 Sith, and now one person who's becoming like the main new Jedi,
The Last Jedi, in
the
fact.
Last Jedi, it's the power just tilts.
The rule that there has to be 2 Sith I'm curious to see how arbitrary that is, or what the Force has to say about it. Because Kylo
It
seems
was a
to
self-imposed rule in the
Yeah.
Sith culture.
Because Kylo
It makes
seems to
sense, 'cause
be
you wouldn't want
ready to
competition.
break that down. He's got his Knights of Ren, which
Yeah.
we haven't seen yet, but we've heard a lot about. I'm curious to see what he starts doing with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the thing. The Force just got blown wide open. It has
Yeah.
been democratized to some degree. And if it is about balance, the more bad you have, the more good you have, the more good you have, the more. So it's about, you need those gray areas. And I guess
Yeah.
I'm so excited to see what happens with the third film, because this world just got blown open in such a big way.
And,
It's
yeah,
not
and
the
I-
religion anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think there's an interesting contrast between how George Lucas viewed the Force versus how Rian Johnson is displaying it. Because in the prequels, George Lucas envisioned the Force in that the light side was inherently balanced and the dark side was an inherent imbalance. And Rian Johnson seems to be advancing the idea that instead light and dark need to exist in harmony. And I find that both more interesting and a welcome change.
I loved that Luke and Kylo were basically two sides of the same coin in that Luke was just like, no, it needs to end. And Kylo's like, no, it needs to end. And it's like, but you're both coming at it from two completely different angles, but the same like theory.
I want to move into some of the more complaints. Like we can go some of the internet complaints for this thing or the non-internet complaints.
I've got a big one.
I also have a big one, but I'll let you go first.
Why did Admiral Holdo not tell them her plan if it was as simple as getting on the escape pods and going to a fort?
Because the very little that she did tell got leaked to the enemy and people
Yeah.
fucking died.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much what.
That one I had a problem with the first time I watched it, and then on the rewatches, I'm like, okay, no, it's not explicitly said, but it kind of makes sense.
I have read some very good explanations for why that choice was made. I would have liked the movie itself to make that case better.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
It does seem, you do feel like problematic because you want her to be able to trust everyone that works underneath her, but then you can still understand the need to knownness of being.
Yeah. Can you imagine
at
if she
the
had to
top.
stop and explain what
And
she's doing to
especially
every
with
single
Poe, who's
person?
just
Yeah.
so emotional and just going nuts right
and
now.
just got people killed.
You
Yeah.
can't trust him with information right
God,
now. Like
Poe.
he's completely compromised. Like if it wasn't a life or death situation, he'd be pulled out of the ranks right now because he cannot operate.
He is obsessed with being the hero, and
Yeah.
he needed to be put down a little bit for that.
Because and I like that she kind of told him like being the hero means making tough decisions, and she had to make several, and not telling some of her subordinates in choosing to epically blow up the fleet.
Which was
Like,
awesome.
oh
was
my
one
god,
of the,
that was so
was one of the
cool.
most beautiful things I have ever
It
seen.
still blows my mind that
cried.
it had to be explained to other people. Like,
Way
there's
to go, AMC theater goers.
Oh my god.
For those of you who don't know, AMC had to hang up signs outside the theaters for Last Jedi that in the third act of the film, there's a part where the sound cuts out, and that's
it's not a
intentional.
mistake.
Because people would storm out of the theater and go, "There, the sound cut out!"
I was very angry because the dude next to me in that moment went, "Sweet!" and so like ruined it. The entire theater, and people
Yeah.
people
I
started
think I
chuckling.
stopped breathing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was so into that moment.
Yeah, I saw it in the Dome at the ArcLight over
Awesome.
over on Vine. So this is a theater of 800 people, and we're of course already really into this movie. So you're feeling the energy coming off of this gigantic crowd, and then Holdo drives that ship through the fleet, and when the hush hit the theater, you felt all of the air leave the theater too. It was like nothing I had ever experienced.
Yeah.
It's fucking
It's a
incredible.
wonderful moment.
It is.
But I feel like she actually does tell Poe in indirectly, like right before he turns on her completely. She says like what that line about the sun. What good is the sun when you can't see the sun? You have to have faith
Yeah.
that it's still there. I'm butchering it, but that's the line. And he's like, okay, I get it. And finally, she's like, basically, tell him you need to trust me. And then he looks at something and just goes, oh wait, I changed my mind. I don't trust you again. And it's like she just told him he needed to trust her. Like she was in control of the situation. She had a plan. He just needed to believe she was in charge and fucking do your job and don't worry about it.
Which he refused to do, which is
Yeah.
why I like a lot of those articles that went around. Like, this is the movie that, like, really puts the people who are super into mansplaining, like, in their place. Like, no, fuck off.
Yeah.
yeah.
I like
Listen to
when,
who's in charge.
like when he's trying to mansplain on how to get away from the other ships, and she just goes, "Oh, thank you for informing me of that." It's such a cute little, like, she wants to pat him on the head way.
She's so good in this movie.
She's great, and I'm making that dress.
Yeah.
I'm sad that she's only in this one, but honestly, the
she's
sacrifice
amazing.
was worth it in a
They,
way.
Yeah,
they went
well-
for the better character than a
Yeah.
sellable character.
And we
which
have
is-
that great moment between her and Leia.
Yeah.
So it's just
The
so nice to see
mentor,
two
mentee,
female
yeah.
characters just having a moment that is just about their experience
Yeah,
and
Cla-
leadership.
Claudia Gray has a book called Leia, Princess of Alderaan, which is a really excellent exploration of their friendship that I highly recommend.
And there's something really cool about, like, it's not just two women having conversations. They're two women of power, like,
Yeah,
who are in
yeah.
charge of the whole ship. Like, how many kids get to see that in movies these days? It's like fucking none. Like, it's
And
awesome.
it's not just two women, because you got Leia and I keep forgetting her name. What was it? Holdo.
Yep.
And then you have the other woman underneath them with that they constantly do her profile.
They're all over 40.
Yeah.
And then you have not Leia's daughter, who's her daughter in real life, who's giving she's giving orders at the very beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Like there's multiple women
Yeah.
in power. You have the female pilot that is giving orders during the first bombardment.
And Rose fucking
Yeah, well,
puts
Rose,
Finn in his place left
she
and
does.
right.
And
Rose
Paige.
gets to a place of power where she doesn't start there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one major complaint that I had with this movie, and I had it with Force Awakens too, I don't feel like the younger new filmmakers really know what to do with all of the legacy characters. Like, clearly they write it, like this one they wanted a lot to do with Luke and Leia, the other one was tons with Han Solo, and they did a very good job with those characters, but when it comes to R2-D2, C-3PO, Chewie, like they're basically just
Chewie's
window
not,
dressing.
doesn't
Like,
do anything in this movie.
and like these weren't just characters that were just kind of fun to have on screen. They were people's favorite characters.
Well, and beyond that, the original trilogy was about two robots. It was always about two robots stumbling into misadventure.
I mean, they were mostly the point character.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
They got you into every situation.
They like George Lucas originally structured it to be that, and of course it changed because you can't have like two completely you can't have like an R2-D2 like controlling the shots because he doesn't have hands. But like for the most part, they are the point characters, like you said. And that's the one thing I kind of miss about
They
new
don't
Star
know
Wars.
what to do with C-3PO. Makes nothing in this movie.
I'm
he's
all
kind-
right with that.
And even
Yeah,
BB-8
let the
is
past die.
just
Kill it if you have
also,
to.
in Revenge of the Sith, that whole long factory sequence just killed it for me. I no longer want to watch
That's
them
Attack of the
doing
Clones.
anything. Oh, is that Attack of Clones?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Attack
I
of the
don't
See how
want to
memorable
watch-
it was?
Yeah, I don't
But
want to watch
the thing
them
is,
do anything ever again. I'm done.
I don't disagree with you, but then lose the window dressing because like now we're forcing these filmmakers to pay service to
Forcing.
characters that they don't care about.
Yeah. And I love robots in general. Like you guys know.
Yeah.
But I love robots, and so to see them, it hurts more to see them sidelined than it does to just not have them there.
Like,
I
at
have
least
that exact emotion towards Chewbacca.
Yeah.
Because to me, Chewie was always a fully fleshed character, which in the books had his own voice,
Legends.
and they stop doing that. I don't know why you want to do that.
Mansplaining alert over here.
You just like to be mean right now. But we had the advantage in the books that you could write his thoughts in English. And I understand you can't do that in the movies where you have to have someone translate for him. But even so, they made it work in the other films. Why can't you make it work in these? Why do you just put him as a nothing? If Han's gone, then he barely is
Comic
important.
relief in this
Like,
movie.
he's not supposed to be comic relief. He's supposed to be a supporting character.
He's also really old, though. Like, how old do Wookiees live?
Wookiees can live several hundred years.
Okay, so he's not that old.
But like the end of Awakens, it felt like it was promising, like, oh, so Leia will be Chewie's new right hand man. Like they should have like a really good budding friendship, and we get a glimpse of that
Right.
here and there. But so yeah, right. And it was just like,
Then he's just this. Yeah, you
And-
have the stupid thing with him eating or not eating the porg.
yeah. But like I'm
And that's
fine.
it.
the Porg already died.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like,
The
where were
porg
the
died
porgs
for nothing.
guilting him when he was roasting it?
Also, they were not scared enough of him. They were like
No.
coming up to him. He's eating one of you guys. Fucking get out of there.
he already killed it. He skinned it. He roasted it, and now you're playing on the guilt trip.
But would you?
They
if you
just
saw-
wanted some.
If you
Yeah.
saw,
He just didn't speak pork.
They were, yeah.
seriously, if you
Like-
saw a Wookiee like eating a human, would you walk and be like, "Please don't eat that human"? You'd be like, "Oh, fucking run!" You know?
No, those
Yeah.
porgs just wanted some, and I know because I live with a porg, and when she makes that face, that means she wants
You try to
whatever
give her
I'm eating.
food.
Yeah.
You know, I had read somewhere that the intention for the trilogy was that it was going to be structured where Rey would be mentored by a different member of the original trio each time. Now, because we unfortunately lost Carrie Fisher, and theoretically Episode 9 was supposed to be the Leia movie, I'm curious if they're going to repurpose the remaining original cast members to fill that void somehow. I mean,
I've heard a rumor they're planning on recasting her,
No.
think
which
That's
I'm
a good idea.
kind
I'm
of on-
actually okay with them recasting as long as they recast with the performance, not with a
Like a stunt
celebrity.
cast, yeah.
Not
Because
Meryl Streep.
Yes,
Yeah,
not
that's-
Meryl Streep. Go with somebody who can embody the character the same way, have a very intensive casting call, whatever. Put the effort in to find someone that can pull the essence of Leia, because there's other actors out there that can do it.
I normally would be okay with that, but I feel like in this instance, I love Carrie Fisher so much, and
No
she's
one
so
can replace her.
identifiable.
Yeah,
I just
I
can't
there is no
see
other
You
it.
don't have to replace Carrie Fisher, but you don't have to get rid of Leia because of that. I don't think
I
you
see
do.
both sides of it, and I'll
She had she had such a triumphant moment though when she finally when she got to use the Force and when she was
Oh,
the
I love
survivor
that
Love
with
that.
it.
That was
'Cause
so
you love that
cool.
scene.
I've
You know,
heard so many people say it was terrible.
I
What the
stood
hell
up
are you
and
talking
clapped.
Her
'cause
brother
I
has
just-
magic powers. Her son has magic powers. There's no fucking way she never asked them to teach
Yeah.
her shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, she's always had it.
Yeah, like,
no, but
he's-
I mean, like,
he's
she
the
never-
old-
She's had some
Yeah.
training.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because like, he's the all-powerful like Force Messiah. She's his twin sister.
Yeah.
She has everything he has, and also like a top-notch education.
and can do it backwards in heels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ain't that the truth?
I heard one complaint I've heard is the humor, like the conversation between Hux and
The way the
Poe,
movie
Yeah.
opened.
and then Luke being kind of flippant. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
I did not like the opening conversation. I'm happy they moved past that.
I'm always ready to see a hot guy put a ginger in his place.
I'm kind of. The thing was, the first time when you sit down to watch it, and like I have a very good friend. I'm not sure if he's still listening to the show, but Tim, if you're listening, hi Tim. But he thinks this is far and away the most offensive Star Wars film ever made. He hated it, and he hated it right from the get go with that conversation, because just like right out of the gate, it's like this is a different Star Wars film, and like you know it right away. And if you watch the deleted scenes, they were going to hit that a lot harder. Originally, with the original open was the ship going overhead just like normal, and as you pan down, you're not looking at space, you're looking at the fake Bacta tank that John Boyega's in.
Back to suit.
Back to suit, and it's like, oh wow, we're not even starting in space in this one. Like it was a way harsher, like
It was exactly like they did it in Aliens. It was really weird.
yeah, it was. I mean, I'm sure it was.
And
Probably
they did a
called
version
it.
of that joke with the. It looks like it's a spaceship, and then it's the iron.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I actually
which
think
I
that one's
love that
funny.
moment.
Yeah,
I
that
thought that
one's
was
always
so good.
yeah. Like there's things in this movie that it's like the comedy is definitely different, but I don't think it takes away from the movie.
Well, it's because they didn't lean into it too hard.
Yeah, a lot of
That-
the deleted
that
scenes are
beginning
comedy they took
sequence,
out, which
that
is a good
beginning-
idea.
But that beginning sequence to me, I was just like, okay, are we gonna go Marvel with this? But then they stopped doing it right away. Like that was just
Yeah.
the one sequence that was like that, so I was able to get past
I
it.
also think like the first time we see Poe, when Kylo Ren captures him, he's just like, "Who talks first? You talk first. I talk to them first. I can't see with all that
Yeah,
stuff in
that-
your
that's
face."
very
like
his-
that's the same comedy. It's just shorter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
But
And there's
the
something-
difference between that and the conversation on the phone is that that's just Poe being Poe in that moment. They're not reacting to him the way that he's acting. In the phone conversation that
Hux.
Hux is replying to, he's acting the same sort of way, but in
But
the
Hux is that kind of like Hux is a little bitch. He
Yeah.
would
He is a
fall
little
for that.
bitch, but-
I
Like-
love the looks that he and Kylo Ren constantly give
Yes.
each other.
Oh
It's
my
the
God.
greatest.
Oh my god, I get to kill Kylo. Oh shit, he's awake. It's
Yeah.
so wonderful.
You missed your window.
Throws him across the.
Yes, sir. Right away, sir.
I feel bad for Hux all the time. I'm like, how did you even get to this position? No one respects you.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, he is a respected figure in The Force Awakens, and they repurposed him into comedic relief in The Last Jedi, I think, to his benefit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it makes him stand out so much more than just the other guy in the First Order.
Because Domhnall Gleeson is so good at selling that. Because
Yeah.
he's a funny dude,
He
and he's
is.
really good at playing this straight man.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
why you cast him in Peter Rabbit.
I actually did want to see that. I never
I
got
kind of
a
do
chance.
too. I don't know why.
A critic I follow on Twitter, when it came out, tweeted out, Peter Rabbit verdict. Not as good as Black Panther. Still good.
I'm trying to think of other characters we haven't hit that I want to talk about, or are there just things in the movie? We mentioned that the theme is failure, which I think is really important.
The space nuns.
Space nuns.
I
There are
don't
space
really
nuns.
care about the space
I-
nuns.
I like the space.
I like
nuns.
how Ray. Have you ever met somebody who, no matter how hard you try, you always make a bad impression on them
Yeah.
every single time? I really felt for Ray in all those moments where she was making the space nuns' lives worse.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Who is this girl? Why is she on our island?
Has anyone else around the table watched the deleted scenes? I know I keep bringing them up.
Yeah.
There's one where Luke is like fake teaching her a lesson.
The third lesson that we
Yeah.
never got.
Yeah, to try to basically force her to like, anger and violence is not always the first place you should go. That's the lesson he's trying to teach her by lying to her that there's these marauders that come in once a month and they kill all the people there. Do you want to go
They
stop
pillage.
them? And she's like, well, we got to go stop them. They're going to die. He's like, but if you stop them, they're going to come back every week as opposed to every month, and they're going to come back stronger and more violent. So the Jedi would say, don't do anything. What do you want to do? And she just lights off for him, just like runs across the thing. It's a really beautiful shot, and I'm kind of sad they took it out, but it was another comedic punch. So she kicks open the door with a lightsaber, ready to kick ass, and it's a wedding. And they're all just like...
Yeah. They're just dancing, playing music.
And they're just kind of having a good time. And she's like, oh, I have a light stick. Yay. And she tries like... And
she does the little whoom, whoom,
Yeah.
and then they're like, woo!
It's a very funny moment, but like it totally just downplays that thing. But it's the lesson we never got. And it was like a really good thing to get in there. I think.
But it was to play off that. It was one of my favorite Luke moments that wasn't in the movie because then he gets down there and she's like, "Why didn't you tell me that I was actually wrong?" He's like, "Well, I was going to, but you just ran so fast."
I sort of have a lot of feelings about like his reaction to her when she starts to look into that dark hole, and he's just like, "You didn't even try to stop yourself. You just went right in." Well, okay, but remember how you went into a cave to explore your dark side too? Like,
that's not him legitimately afraid of her doing that. That's him afraid that he's going to have another student fail.
Yeah,
because that's what Kylo did.
Yeah.
So I don't think that was because he gets over that. He still teaches her after that, but I think that's just like, oh shit, it's another one. I'm fucked, and he just freaks out and runs away.
Yeah.
Can we talk for a moment? There's not really much to say, but how great was it to see Yoda?
It really was.
nice.
I love
especially his like, haha, Luke, you're dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is time for it to end.
Stupid
And
books.
holy shit, how great was it to have a puppet Yoda? Like
It
Yes,
was.
he was
The
so
really
difference is
nice.
appreciable and really nice. I will be in the minority on this. I was happy to see Yoda. I would have been happier to see Obi-Wan.
Well, yeah, we all
You and
would.
McGregor,
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah, but that's just because I'm very fond of the character of Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Personally, I appreciate that they still found time to bring back one of his old masters to make fun of him for being so pig-headed about this sort of thing. It's,
You'll appreciate that my new dog's name is Obi-Wan.
do you call him Ben for short?
I call him Obi.
Oh, I love that so much.
there is a, and
I'm
it does. I'm glad they brought back in the Force Ghost because it made me go, okay, so Mark Hamill can still be in the next one.
Yeah,
Because I thought Mark Hamill did a phenomenal job in this
better
movie.
be in the next one because he says to Kylo Ren, "I'll see you around."
Yeah,
Yeah.
see you around, kid.
So-
it's so
He
good.
says, if you strike me down, I'll be following you. And even though he
Yeah.
doesn't technically strike him down, he still does it.
It's to hunt him every
he
now
does
and then.
Which
the
I
act of
find
striking him down.
Really interesting that he basically says, if you strike me down, I'm going to stay with you. And then he's like, fuck
Like
it,
your
I'm going to strike
father.
you down.
Yeah.
But like he does it. I don't know if he's just like, fuck you, I'm going to do it anyway. Or if in that moment he's like, I'd kind of like that. You know?
I think it was a fuck you. I'll do it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I feel like we've kind of hit the bottom of this. Is there anything else that we have not hit that people want to, or should we move into quotes? I know there's probably people listening going, "No, you didn't talk about it."
the fight against the Praetorian Guards was cool.
It was very cool.
It was-
And-
That's
Very
the red
cool.
room of pain I
Yeah.
want to
Yeah,
see.
It,
Yeah.
it is possibly the coolest fight scene in all of
I'm
Star
not
Wars.
the biggest fan of their redesign from the original Red Guards, but
they're older. They're
yeah,
different.
it's
it makes
new.
sense.
It's good for a toy.
And I like the new weapons.
Yeah.
Yeah,
One of
because
the-
it
That's
does
stuff
make
we've had in
sense that
video
they would
games for
make.
years that they finally
Yeah.
brought into the movie.
But I
Yeah.
also like one of the things I constantly preach about action scenes is the need to have plot forwarded by action scenes. Shouldn't just be a fight. There should be plot happening or character development happening, and in that there's character development because you see her fighting and you see him fighting. You see him check in with her to make sure she's doing okay, and then like you see her doing creative problem solving to figure out how to get out of a danger. Like there's stuff going on, and it's not just a fight. It's them like becoming. Like they're becoming a unit. They're in that brief moment. They're
It's the
like,
closest thing we'll ever see in a sex scene to Star Wars.
yeah.
Yeah.
Legit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
Wow.
very in sync.
Yeah.
Does it bother anyone else that there's not a legit lightsaber fight in the whole or duel in the
That
whole movie?
was the most legit lightsaber
but
fight.
there's no.
There's no lightsaber
I'm not
clashes.
saying I feel this way, but like in every other Star Wars film, at one point or another, there will be two Jedi or Sith facing off at each other with.
You couldn't
What
have
about
that
Rogue
in this
One?
movie because they're doing away with the Jedi and the Sith.
Yeah,
That's
did-
what was so special
Yeah, no,
about this.
I
It was a
didn't
sex
need it to
scene that
happen.
gave birth
Yeah.
to something new.
Hey. And also, not every Star Wars movie. Rogue One.
Rogue One's not an
Yeah.
episode.
No, but you said Star Wars movie.
Sure, okay, but every episode.
Wait, we're really
has-
getting into semantics on
Yeah.
this episode.
So
But he's
fine.
just bringing that up because that's one of the things that the haters bring up on the internet.
Yeah, and that's totally. But it's one of the. Like, I'm done
Because
trying
they
to
all
argue with the
decided
haters.
what the movie should be like, and anything that does not
But-
fit their exact
And they decided
plan,
it a year right after Force Awakens ended. Like, all right,
Yep.
so this will be the next movie. And then when it wasn't that movie,
Just
they
let
went,
the
"Well, what the
movie
fuck?" and flipped the
happen.
table.
It is the running problem with every form of fandom right now, where if you don't fulfill these certain people's orgasmic expectations, you failed miserably and it's awful
Good
and
luck,
I hate
Marvel
it.
and Infinity Wars.
Yeah, there is a writer named Sam Sykes who, first off, everybody should follow on Twitter because he's very good at it. But he he tweeted out something shortly after the new movie came out that essentially traced the evolution of fandom from "I love this" to "I own this" to "I must destroy this," and it's been really interesting to watch the internet speed up that process.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There was always like a certain entitlement to what Star Wars could and couldn't be back when we lived in the dark ages where there weren't new movies coming out. But now, since it's become a content mill, it's just become so much worse.
That's why
yeah.
what I cited at the very beginning about how I was surprised that the haterade started so soon, because when Disney bought Star Wars and said they were going to make all these movies, I was just like, okay, all right, I kind of got an idea what's going to happen. It'll be interesting to see how it fleshes out. People will all be very excited right away, but how long will it take for people to start hating it? And I thought it was going to take at least 4 movies.
Lol.
I
It
thought
took
we'd be at
2.
I thought we'd be at the next trilogy.
Oh,
Like,
it's
I thought,
Oh, sorry.
I thought when they kicked off the next trilogy, people were like, "We're doing another one of these things. Didn't we just do this? This is stupid."
Yeah,
I thought we'd at least get through. The
I'm
trilogy.
honestly surprised it's already
Oh,
happened.
no, we didn't
so
get through
harshly.
the first trailer. Remember what everybody said when they saw a black stormtrooper? They fucking
yeah.
flipped us shit.
Yep.
Yep.
I think that's where, too, you have to remember that the internet and, like, nerd internet is a very specific and actually smaller than you'd expect echo chamber.
Toxic place.
Yeah, because
But
people
they're just
still...
super loud.
Most
Nerds
people
hate
loved
change.
this movie.
Yeah.
Most people loved it enough to see it again. And I think, too, that's where we have to acknowledge, like, Star Wars is a multi-billion-dollar franchise. It's not for nerds anymore.
No.
And that's where it's really fascinating to see this clash of, like, old guard, like, people that feel ownership of this franchise versus people that are keeping it afloat by being the ones to actually pay for it
Yeah.
and
It's
see the
the
movies.
same reason anybody like hates, like, you want people you like to like your thing, but at the same time you hate when too many people like your thing, because it's like, this is my thing, you like it, it lessens it somehow. If everyone likes it, well, it's not I'm not special anymore for knowing about this thing and liking it.
I guess.
It's so dumb.
Let's move into quotes. Quotes.
I have
I
one.
have so many.
Yeah, my very favorite quote, and there were a lot of very good. This is probably the most quotable Star Wars movie, I think. But my favorite one is when Luke says to Rey, and this is the lesson: the Force does not belong to the Jedi. To say that the light ends when the Jedi do is vanity, because to me is a message to the old guard. Star Wars does not belong to you. Star Wars belongs to everybody. You don't get to define what Star Wars is. We all define what Star Wars is together. We all take different meanings from it. None of them are invalid. None of them negate each other. And we all need to learn to let go of the past.
Yeah.
And just try to take those feelings and be a positive person with it and not be terrible.
That's the internet for you. Thank you, internet, for listening to this episode, by the way. My quote is nowhere near as poignant, but I still really like it. Mine comes from Rose, and it's a moment where, like, I love that Rose was so infatuated with the idea of Finn, and then after getting to meet him, just does not give a fuck and will just call him out on everything. And when they're on Snoke's ship, and they're like, all right, so we got the thing down, we need to get out of here. And he goes, I know where all the escape pods are. And she just goes, oh, I know where all the escape pods are. And she looks and goes, of course you do. it's such a great...
Her killing her hero worship is one of my favorite parts
It's
of
so
this
good.
movie.
She still falls in love with him, which is weird.
I don't think she does. I just,
She, I'm kind of okay with it because
don't know.
the whole it wasn't
She
explored
just
enough,
wanted to
but-
kiss a hot
Yeah, I
guy
think
while
she
she
just
was
wanted-
in
she
pain.
thought she was dying.
We've all been there.
my favorite,
Everyone on that ship is made out with Poe.
it's
Oh my
hard
God.
for me to actually choose a favorite quote because there are so many great moments in this movie. So I'll just choose the one that I thought was just very humorous for her character with Rey. Because when she said to Luke, it's like moving rocks and shit, right? And then at the end, when she's saving the entire
Moving rock.
resistance, it's almost like resigned. She huffs, goes, moving rocks. And then raises all the rocks.
Oh, it's so good.
Which all fall very quietly to the ground.
Yeah.
She slowed it down when they're falling.
And Poe has a heart-on during that entire scene.
Oh,
by the
yeah.
way.
Oh, for sure.
That's when he
Oh,
was
I
so
like when
excited
they-
to go say hi
Doesn't
to
he
her.
always,
Yeah, when he
though?
introduces her and you're like, oh shit, they haven't met. That's
Yeah.
so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was kind of cool for them to address that.
Yeah. I just love that. I'm right. I know.
Yes, we know who you are.
You're kind of hard to mistake for anybody else.
Mine is actually two quotes in one, really, because I found this kind of fascinating. That Holdo says when Leia's hurt and she takes over, she says, "We are the spark. We are the spark that will light the fire that will restore the resistance." Later, after she dies, at the end of the movie, Poe says, We are the spark that will light the fire that will burn the First Order down. And I find that fascinating that he changed the quote to be way more violent.
Way
He
more
has
his character.
learned
Guys.
nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't it fun how it's Poe Dameron's direct fault that the Resistance went from being a fleet to fitting on the Millennium Falcon?
Yeah.
Yes.
And not only that, it's also his fault. Like, it's his fault 2 times over. Like, stop letting him make decisions.
Oh, we
But
really
he's
didn't
so
talk about Poe much in
pretty.
this
He is
episode
You
at
just
all.
want to keep him around.
I love Poe,
Yeah.
but oh my god, someone needs to stop him.
I feel like we just shat on him periodically.
Yeah,
throughout
just
the
every now and then
episode,
it's like, oh, by
which
the way,
is
fuck
he
that.
really
doesn't
Yeah.
come
It's all
off
he
great in
deserves.
this movie.
It's all he
He's a
deserves.
great character,
Yeah.
but because he's a shit.
Yeah.
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 So my quote is when Rey and Kylo have just knocked out the Praetorian Guard, and he says, you know, the truth about your parents, say it. She says, they were nobody. And he says, they were filthy junk traders, sold you off for drinking money. They're dead in a pauper's grave in the Jakku Desert. You come from nothing. You are nothing, but not to me.
Ugh.
And it was devastating. It was, I think, like, kind of in that context, it would have been so convincing. And the fact that she takes this moment and still says no. She doesn't let him get to her. She
Yeah.
makes her own choice is so powerful. Because
Someone who's looked for family for so long, and
Yeah.
here he is offering
because
it.
he's so sincere, I think, in that moment, but it's so dangerous.
And I've heard a lot of people say that scene is he's being very manipulative, and I'm like, I don't think it is. It might be
think
accidentally manipulative,
He's
but
He means it.
He means it,
he
yeah.
he means it, and it is a manipulative statement. I mean, he's tearing her down so that she'll
Yeah, you
want
can be
him.
both.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think he really means it in that moment, but that just shows how dangerous he is. And it's to her credit. I mean, I've certainly fallen for that before in my life, and it's to her credit that she says no and is so sure of herself. Like
Yeah.
that is her most powerful moment in the film.
Yeah.
If only we could all be that powerful.
Yeah.
Is that everybody?
Yeah.
Quotes? Okay, so review system for today, I think is going to be more difficult than I intended it to be, but I'm going for it anyways. Any other Star Wars film?
Just name a Star Wars film.
You have to review it with the Star Wars film. You can't just name
Oh,
it.
I know,
I've
but
got
I mean,
one.
like,
Go for it.
I'm going to go with Rogue One because it's also filled with attractive people that I would. No, but like seriously, they both feel like something new and
Yeah.
fresh in the Star Wars universe. With like too much fan service paid to C-3PO and R2-D2 in a way that hurts me.
Yeah.
Don't tease me.
I'll go with wait, which one? Oh yeah, Empire Strikes Back, because it for a large part of that movie, Luke is separated from the main group and they're off doing their own thing, and he also goes into the dark place, and so does she. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of parallels between them.
You can use the same one if you have a different explanation for it. That's totally fine.
I will review The Last Jedi and compare it to The Last Jedi because it is incomparable.
Okay, that works.
Smooth.
I'm gonna go A New Hope, and mostly just based on the name. Not because the films are really in any way similar, but they basically both films kind of went, hey, here's a whole new thing that people can just go nuts with, and this one did the same thing, and it kind of gave me a new hope, if you will, for where the franchise will go.
I guess I'll go with my personal favorite, which is always Return of the Jedi. Yes. Because in Return of the Jedi, it's kind of the polar opposite of this movie, because everything in Return of the Jedi is about fixing what's wrong. And for the most part, everyone succeeds, and everyone is able to overcome the problems that they're facing, and then end on a very happy note. And it has my favorite scene in all Star Wars movies where Luke is being taunted by Vader, and he's like, sister, you have a sister, and it goes through all the stuff. And for a moment, you think Luke is failing, you think Luke is giving into it, and he's going to turn dark, but then he doesn't. And in this movie, Rey never really looks like she's falling. This movie is very much an opposite to Return of the Jedi in many ways, because it is about the Jedi ending, when Return of the Jedi is about the Jedi hopefully being restored. So they're very great within their own merits, but have a very different message.
Yeah, I think that works. Yeah. Was that everybody? Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So that brings today's episode to a close. We will do a quick round of plugs and whatnot, and then get out of this. So next week, I'm not sure which movie's coming out next. We have 4 movies on our docket that we're going to record over the next 2 weeks. They are 3 billboards outside of Ebbing, Missouri. Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle. We're doing a comic book battle for the new Avengers film coming out, and that's going to be any movie that is not DC or Marvel. So non-DC, DC or Marvel.
I thought we were going to compete with the actual comic books, and I was like, oh, dibs on Bitch Planet.
Oh,
But okay.
no. Comic book movies that are not made by DC or Marvel. Which I'll be a little squishy on that. If it's like a DC-owned property, but not an actual DC canon book,
because you have to whether or not Vertigo
Constantine
and
or
yeah,
something.
yeah, like that sort of stuff. Yeah. So if it's owned, that's okay. But if it's like Batman,
Does it have to be a movie?
Spider-Man, preferably a movie, but we can discuss
So
that.
it could be
later.
like V for Vendetta or Scott
for Vendetta,
Pilgrim.
yeah, those would both work.
Surrogates
Yeah.
or Kick-Ass.
Yeah, any of those would work. Or the one that I'll pick, which will win, which I'll say later.
Shut up.
I have 2 that I'm debating between. They're 2 of the greatest movies ever made, so I've already won. Don't worry about it.
Ghost World's actually on the table as well.
Yeah, Ghost World's in the movie. That's not
Lord of the Rings weren't comics, Brian.
fair.
Isn't Barbed Wire also based on a
Yes.
comic book?
It is.
I own a couple of sheets.
Don't take my choice.
Yeah.
But that's what we have coming up. Be sure to check out our new show, which still has not come out as of this release yet, but will be coming out shortly, which is former co-host Nick Friedemann and I going through every single episode of Venture Brothers and reviewing them. That is called The Venture Bros. That's everything for me.
Really
Anybody
stretched on that title.
Yeah, I know. It was Chewie's
It was
idea.
my idea.
You really stretched on that title,
It's
too.
spelled the same, but it's different.
I like it. That's it for me. Chewie, do you have anything to plug?
I'm not working on anything right now other than making a baby.
Yeah, you're working on a kid.
So I don't know. Plug watching a bunch of movies about babies and whether or not you like that.
Fair enough. Emily, anything to plug?
I still sew shit.
That's EmilyBlakeSews.com. Not I just
Why
still
isn't
sew.
it EmilyBlakeSewShit.com?
That would
Should have been. Oh, I wasted my life.
too bad you don't have a time machine. Sam?
I guess continue to watch the Grinch trailers as they appear in theaters.
Slowly. I haven't really seen many new things coming out.
We only had the first trailer that just released in front of A Wrinkle in
Okay.
Time.
Oh, okay.
The next one won't be out till June. But
Okay.
those posters are dope, am I right?
Mostly I enjoy your posts about it. Like having a picture with Laddie in front of the poster.
Oh, yeah,
I really
we-
liked.
Yeah, so if you follow my dog at Saint_Lottie, you will see her delightful Grinch poster version.
This is pretty awesome. Paul, anything to plug?
Because my gourds are growing. I don't have anything new to plug at the moment, but if you follow me on Twitter, I am at NotLikeFreddy. I mostly tweet about old anime and pictures of my cat
And a lot of
food.
Oh, okay.
What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say you also get really angry at racism and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I hate racism. I'm not. I belong to a lot of fandoms, but racism is not one of them. Not like Freddy, because my last name is Kruger, and believe me, I've heard the joke before.
Do you hear it every time you go on a date with a girl?
That's a yes. Okay, thank you very much for Paul coming out. Sam for sitting in for John, and everyone else for listening.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Bye.
It's always fun.
Bye!